Thank you. Please be seated. We'll go back on the record in the matter of State of Utah versus MacNeill. He is present with his counsel. The state's attorneys are also present. This matter comes before the court on the state's motion to limit electronic media coverage and of two federal inmates under subpoena to testify in this case. The issue is governed by Rule 4-401.01 of the Utah Rules of Judicial Administration. That rule creates a presumption that electronic media coverage by a news reporter shall be permitted in court proceedings. The judge, however, may prohibit or restrict electronic media coverage only if the judge finds that the reasons for doing so are sufficiently compelling to outweigh the presumption. The rule then details several factors that the court shall consider in making that determination. Three of those factors have application to the present motion. The first is whether there is a reasonable likelihood that coverage will prejudice the right of the parties to a fair proceeding. The second is whether the coverage will jeopardize the safety or the well-being of any individual. And the third is any other factor affecting the fair administration of justice. When the court considers the entire community of witnesses to a criminal case, a subset of those witnesses is the jailed witness who cooperates with the prosecution. That subset of witnesses is, by virtue of incarceration, subject to increased risk of harm because of giving testimony. And I think that is a factor that is important to consider in assessing whether or not the safety or well-being of a person will be jeopardized. As I've stated, generalized fears arising from status alone are less weighty, however, than specific facts and circumstances related to the individual testifying and to the proceedings. In this case, at least at this juncture, there's no reasonable likelihood that photographing these two inmates and disclosing their identities would prejudice the state, because both witnesses intend to testify whether there's media coverage or not. Although, as I indicated, what they will say may be different when they take the stand, and that's the concern. There is some evidence that while their safety might not be jeopardized, that their well-being certainly is. They've both expressed serious concern about disclosure. Unfortunately, they were both called out at the same time in the presence of other inmates, and there is some indication that the purpose for their travel is known. And both have been questioned by a person whose interests appear to be aligned with those of the defendant. Based on those facts, the court does find that the safety or well-being of inmates 3 and 4 may be jeopardized as a result of their testimony. In addition, both inmates are not in state custody, but rather in the custody of federal authorities. The difficulty with that is that the state prosecutors have no ability to ensure transfer of the inmates to protect safety or well-being. Rather, that decision lies in the discretion of federal authorities who may not fully be apprised of the circumstances and frankly have no obligation to accept recommendations of the state's prosecutors. In addition, because these inmates are in federal custody, this court has no authority to issue orders about where the inmates should be housed. Finally, with respect to the fair administration of justice, testimony in all cases should be free of force, threat, or coercion. No person under subpoena to a court of law should have to pay a cost of their safety or well-being. And when force or threats of force are used to manipulate judicial proceedings, the administration of justice in this state and in other courts is compromised. Having weighed those factors, the court grants the state's motion. I will order that these individuals be referred to as inmate 3 and inmate 4 in both direct and cross-examination. I will order that the pool photographer not photograph either of these individuals. I will also order that the electronic media coverage not engage in any photography of these individuals, although they have already stipulated not to do that. Is there any question regarding my ruling today?
None from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
For the defense.
Very good. Let's have the jury in. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll go back on the record in the matter of State of Utah versus Martin MacNeill. Mr. MacNeill is present with his counsel. The state's attorneys are present. The jury is seated. Ms. Summers, if you'll come forward again and take the witness stand. Yesterday, you took the oath to tell the truth, and you remain under oath today. Mr. Spencer, you may continue your cross-examination.
Good morning.
Morning.
If I may approach.
You may.
Okay.
Ms. Summers, yesterday there was some discussion about your mother's bathing habits, right?
Yes.
And and in looking at an email from 8708, you did discuss in an email that you believe that your mother's bathing habits was to enter into the tub and turn the water on.
Is it highlighted in here? Or?
Yes, I believe it is. It's on the second page, is it?
Of which one? Is it the 924 or
Nope, it's the 8708 email.
Okay. Okay, I see it.
So I misspoke yesterday when I indicated that wasn't in an email.
Oh, okay.
It is in your email, in fairness.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're correcting yourself. Okay.
Okay. You also sent an email on 9/23/08 to Doug Whitney, correct?
924 of 08?
Looks like you wrote it on 9/23 perhaps and mailed it on 9/24.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I see that.
And you start that off in the first line there. You say, you, meaning Doug Whitney, you did a great job with describing my mother's scene, correct?
Yes. I don't know what that's in relationship to, but...
In relation to reviewing a report that he'd given you to determine how he described your mother's scene? Fair statement?
You know, I'm not 100% sure what that was referencing.
Had you not reviewed something that he had given you, you wouldn't have wrote back saying you did a great job with describing my mother's scene, would you?
Probably not.
And then down in the middle of the second paragraph, you again discuss your mother's bathing habits, right? And you indicate that my mother would have gotten undressed all at once in the bathroom before taking a bath.
Yes.
And then later, you were again asked to discuss your mother's bathing habits by the investigators, correct?
Gosh, I don't know. I've been asked so many questions. I don't know exactly when that would have been. But if you have a reference, I can turn to it.
In tab 17, it is. And so tab 17, there are two emails on the second page.
Uh-huh.
You sent an email to Investigator Robinson and shortly after his email on April 29th of 2011, correct?
Correct. Is this what's highlighted up here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about this yesterday, too.
And in that email, you say, Mom usually took her clothes off in her closet before getting into the bath. She didn't normally leave them on the floor next to the tub. Sometimes she would take her clothes off in the bedroom and would drape them over the couch in her room.
Yeah, that's what she'd normally do.
So your statements about your mother's habits in September of 2008 is different than your statement about your mother's habits in April of 2011, correct?
How so? Was that?
And that in September you say your mother would always get undressed all at once in the bathroom.
Well, the closet was in the bathroom.
The closet was yes, it was at the end of the bathroom, right? But it was separated by a door. from,
Yeah, and well, the closet door was always open, so I think I was just,
and the bedroom, where you also said your mother would sometimes leave her clothes, is also separate from the bathroom, correct?
it's a different room, but you walk in the bathroom and then there's the closet that's attached to the bathroom, so.
Point is simply that your description of your mother's habits change over time, right?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think in one instance I was just saying that she took it off in the bathroom and referencing that well, maybe I didn't reference it, but the closet was in the bathroom. And then I said at some time she would take her clothes off in the bedroom and drape them over the couch. I think I was just making some generalizations there.
And in moving on, turning to tab 19D, we discussed your phone records a little bit yesterday, correct?
My phone records, yes, we did.
And you indicated in your testimony yesterday that you had a 8 a.m. lecture, Nevada time, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to look over my my class calendar, but I believe it was 8 o'clock.
And on your phone records, you actually have a call to customer care, one at 8:29 for 1 minute, correct?
What tab did you say, sorry?
19D.
Yeah, I believe we talked about this yesterday too. I did.
Yeah. And then at
What time did you say, sorry?
the first call was at 8:29 for 1 minute,
Yes.
right? And then at 8:30, you had another call to your customer care for 7 minutes.
That's correct.
You wouldn't have been calling customer care during the middle of a lecture, correct?
I don't know, maybe the lecture ended a little earlier that day.
Or maybe you weren't in a lecture that day, right?
No, I was in a lecture, and I have several friends that were around me or colleagues, but I was in a lecture.
And the call that came from your father was on your phone records at 8:10 a.m., and that was before you called customer care. We're speaking Nevada time here. The call from your father at 8:10 was before you called customer service at 8:29 and 8:30, correct?
It appears that, yeah, it was 8:10. Mm-hmm. But I specifically remember being in class when I got that phone call.
So it's what you remember today, but you don't remember calling customer care at 8:30, right?
Well, that was customer care. I don't think ended up being a real significant event that day for me, but
It was a 7-minute event.
well, but not significant in the fact that this is the day my mother died, and the things that were important. The phone call from my father, it was strange, so I definitely remembered that.
At the preliminary hearing, we discussed your mother's medication, right?
Who discussed?
We discussed, or you discussed your mother's medication habits, right?
You just have to refresh me. What page would you like me to turn to?
728.
Okay. 728. I'm there, yeah.
And you indicated at the preliminary hearing that you would start off giving your mother, there on page 728, just a half of a Percocet, right?
What line are you looking at?
On line 8. So you said, and so instead of giving her, 1 to 2 Percocet or 1 to 2 Lortab, we'd start out with a half.
I said a half or 1.
And in your Zyrtec log, there's not a single instance where you logged a half a Percocet.
Well, that's why I said a half or 1. So I think I'm just telling you here that she'd take less than what was prescribed to her, or the maximum amount that she could have taken as prescribed.
You were minimizing at the preliminary hearing what what your mother would take, right? You said that she would.
I think I was just recalling I didn't have that Zyrtec log to look at, but I was saying we'd start out with, she was prescribed 2, and we'd start out with either like a half or 1. So I think, I was just kind of remembering off the top of my head there.
And you've indicated multiple times in your conversations with the investigators that you never found any bottoms in relation to your mother's clothing items that you found on April 11th, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think at one point I thought I might have had them, but no, I didn't. I had put the clothes that my mom had in a little Ziploc bag.
And in your interview on January 5th, 2011, you indicated that you found your mother's clothes in the laundry room, correct?
January 5th. Which page?
Page 5. Line 101.
Let me just read above. I'm just going to read a page before. Okay, and what was your question again, Mr. Spencer?
So in your interview on January 5th, 2011, you indicated that you found your mother's clothes in the laundry room, correct?
I didn't say that I found them in the laundry room.
Well, it looks to me...
It just said they were wet in the laundry room as well. I know my sister Rachel at one point took them into the laundry room and washed them.
Okay.
But when I found them, like I mentioned, I believe in several instances, when I first saw them, they were with a pile of wet towels in the garage.
Okay. So in your January 5th, 2011 interview, you're discussing the clothes. And on
Yes.
the... Maybe going back to page 4, Mr. Whitney says, and we never found the bottoms, right? And you answer no, correct?
That's correct.
And Mr. Robinson says, that was the other question, is that you don't recall seeing anything as far as the bottoms, and you answer, I don't. Correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson asks, the garments, anything like that? And you say, no, all I have is I sent to you. I sent you the garment and the bra. Mr. Robinson says, right, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said back then.
Yeah, that's all that I found.
And then you go on and you say, and that's all I had found. I sent you everything that I had found.
That's correct.
So in that interview, you said that you found the garments and the bra and the top, right?
Well, I mean, I'd seen them in the garage, and yeah, so I had found them or had seen them.
Okay. And then they show you a picture, which, if I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
So I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 27. That's a picture of your mother's clothes in the bedroom, correct?
That's correct.
Same ones that you found and subsequently gave to the police?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, this
and
looks
that's-
like them.
That
They're
would
all
have been
cut
the
up.
picture that you were looking at and discussing with the investigators in your interview on June 5th, 2011.
I don't remember if that was the picture I was looking at or not, but it could have been.
So Mr. Whitney says, and see, that's this picture here. I want to keep this one up for a second. This is right after you're talking about the garment, the bra, and the black top, right?
That's correct.
So see, that's this picture here. I want to keep this one up for a second, if that's okay, but here are the other pictures of those things. And then
Like I said, I don't know if that was this picture.
so you say, yes, this is my parents' room, right?
Yes, I
Line
said,
99.
yes, this is my parents' room.
And that picture with the clothes, that's in your parents' room, right?
Yeah, it depicts my parents' room, and then this is the bathroom as well. Or depicts the floor of
This is my
it.
parents' room, and right there, and then Mr. Whitney says, yeah, and so, and you say, and that's what was out in the laundry, right?
Yes,
And you're referring to that's as being the clothes that are depicted in that picture, correct?
like I said, I don't know what picture he was showing me at this time. It's not referenced here.
Context is obviously you're talking about those clothes, correct?
I don't know if it's obvious. It doesn't talk about clothes.
Then Mr. Whitney goes on and he says, yeah, and that was the laundry room. And they appear wet here, and you say, or mm-hmm. They were wet in the laundry room as well.
Yeah, and I said as well. They were wet in the laundry room as well.
Yeah.
They were wet in the garage as also.
Mr. Whitney just said that they appear wet in the picture, and then you say they appear wet in the laundry room as well. That's what happened, correct?
Well, and that is the truth, yes. They were wet in the laundry room as well.
You've discussed with the investigators doing the laundry the day before you went back to to school on April 10th, 2011, correct?
What is it in this document here?
Turn to tab 16C.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting confused with books. (16C), okay.
So this is an email, again, one that we just reviewed.
Yes,
Letter that you wrote on 9/23/08 and emailed on 9/24/08.
that's correct.
And then you indicate that I had done the laundry the day that I left to go home. Nothing but folded clothes were on the dryer and washer. That's what you say in this email.
That is.
And then if you turn to your interview, your January 5th, 2011 interview, again on page 12,
Okay.
and you indicate there, well, Mr. Whitney asks the question. He says, okay, and you told us before that when you left that you had cleaned, the laundry room was immaculate. You had washed everything and dried it and stacked it. And you answered, yeah, all the laundry, was done. I wanted to make sure like everything was easy for my mom, even though she had been getting up and able to do that on her own. That's what you said in that interview.
That's correct.
And then you sent another email, which is tab D, to Jeff Robinson on
Tab D of 16?
Yes.
Okay.
On April 28th of 2011 again. And in that email, you say, I did not do the laundry. My mother was up doing the laundry the night before her death and was finishing up the laundry that morning that she died. That's what you say in that email, right?
Yeah. That's what I said here in 2011, yes.
You weren't giving accurate information one time or the other, right?
No, I mean, I remember doing the laundry and stacking it on the... I don't know why I would have said that I didn't do the laundry. I know when I called and talked to my mom that day she was dead, the day she died, she was up doing some housework and she could have been doing some laundry. You know, I'm not 100% sure on this.
In fact, this email on April 28th, 2011 was in response, if you look at the second page, to a specific question that the investigators asked you.
And what question was that?
There is a question about the laundry, too. You mentioned that your mother told you on the morning she died that she was up doing the laundry.
Yeah.
When I spoke with Doug about this, he stated that you did the laundry before you left.
Well, I did the laundry and I stacked the things up. You know, there were 4 kids. She could have had to do some more laundry. Or maybe she was just saying, I'm doing the laundry, and she was putting the laundry away. I'm not 100% sure.
The point is, the investigators asked you a specific question. There is a question about the laundry, too. You mentioned that your mother told you on the morning she died that she was up doing the laundry. When I spoke to Doug about this, he stated that you did the laundry before you left. In response to that question, you said, I did not do the laundry.
I think I just misspoke there. This was several years later, and this was more of an informal emails back and forth.
So it's not as important to give accurate information on informal emails back and forth.
Oh, no, that's not what I said. I just think I misspoke right here, or miswrote something down, so. I do remember having done the laundry and stacked it on top of the washer and dryer. My mother may have been taking those and putting them away or doing more laundry.
On June 8th, 2007, you contacted the medical examiner to get a copy of your mother's autopsy report, correct?
Can you reference me to that? I know I did get an autopsy record. Just,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay.
You contacted the medical examiner on June 8th, 2007?
I didn't contact the medical examiner. I went to the ME's office, and you can fill out an application to get a copy of the autopsy report.
So you understood that you could go up to the medical examiner's office and get information, correct?
I knew that the family is privy to having a copy of the autopsy report.
You knew where the medical examiner's office was, or did you have to look it up?
I had to look it up. I know it was up in Salt Lake by the University of Utah.
The day of your mother's passing, your father's sister and brother-in-law, your aunt and uncle, flew in from California, correct?
That's correct.
They stayed for 2 weeks?
I don't know how long they stayed. I wasn't.
Your January 5th, 2011 interview, page 102?
January 5th, page 102. Okay.
Line 2215.
Okay.
So
It said they stayed there a couple of weeks. Yes, they missed their trip. I wasn't at the home when they left.
And Gypsy didn't move into the home until after they had left, correct?
I'm not sure. I know she moved into the home within a couple of weeks after my mother's death.
To turn to your interview on September 29th, 2009 with April, or I'm sorry, with Rachel,
Sorry.
page 34.
Okay, is this one September 29th? Page 34?
Yes.
Okay.
And in this interview, you were asked about the day of your mother's surgery, correct?
I'd have to read it. I don't see what, just give me 1 second, please. Yes.
And so in this interview, you said that when we went in the day of the surgery, I went with her, referring to your mother, right?
That's correct.
And when we went in there, where they met the anesthesiologist, referring to your mother and father, correct?
That's correct.
And she was a little hypertensive there, but the anesthesiologist says, it's fine, it's good enough, right?
Yeah, it was just mildly above what's normal, which is 120/80, but it was just
So
very...
the anesthesiologist was very comfortable with her blood pressure before surgery, right?
I mean, you'd have to ask him.
Okay. And my dad talked to the anesthesiologist. That's what you
Yes,
said, right?
that's correct.
And he says, well, are you sure? Do you know the medications my wife's on? Are you sure that when you give her the medication, there won't be any bad interaction with that?
Yeah, I vividly remember that because it was embarrassing as well because the anesthesiologist obviously knows medication interaction.
But yesterday you told us that your dad just dropped you and your mother off for surgery and left, didn't you?
I don't remember. Did I?
Obviously,
No, I mean, he went in, he dropped us off at the front. He came in until she had her IV in, and then he left.
it's different than what you said yesterday, correct?
I just don't know if I went in as much depth yesterday. I don't know if I was asked that specifically.
Yesterday you said that he dropped you off and had to go back to work.
Do you have a transcript of that?
No, I don't have a transcript of that.
It was a long day yesterday.
Okay.
But he had to go back to work. He didn't stay for the surgery at all.
Turn to tab 31.
Okay.
This is an affidavit signed by Doug Whitney.
Let me turn it over to the signature page. Yes.
And in it says it was customary for Michelle to pick...
Objection, hearsay.
Does this
Right.
come from her? Is this an inconsistent statement?
An inconsistent statement of hers?
To Doug Whitney?
Yes.
Overruled, I'll allow it. Go ahead.
It was customary for Michelle to pick her up.
Where are you
I'm sorry,
reading from?
Paragraph 12. Says it was customary for Michelle to pick her up, but because of the operation, Martin had agreed to pick her up on the morning of April 11, 2007. That's a statement that you told Doug Whitney, right?
It doesn't say that. It's me telling him that.
Nobody else was talking to Doug Whitney about who would pick.
Objection,
I wasn't writing this, though. This is Doug Whitney's
I'm sorry.
writing.
Your objection?
foundation.
Sustained. if you can establish that she made the statement.
That's what you told him, right?
I mean, you'd have to show me specifics. I've talked to him quite a few times, but I wasn't writing this down, so this was Doug Whitney's affidavit.
Do you know anybody else that that would have known about who was going to pick up Ada from school that day, other than you and Michelle, your mother?
I just don't understand this sentence, though. It's customary for Michelle to
I'm
pick.
sorry, that's not responsive to the question. What was your question? Do you know of anyone else?
Anybody else other than you that would have had information about who was going to pick up Ada from school on April 11th, 2007?
Probably Ada or my dad, maybe my sisters.
And Rachel wasn't living at home at that time, right?
At the time of my mother's death, no, she was not.
And
Well, I was talking about, Elle, Giselle, Sabrina, my younger sisters.
in the interview with Doug Whitney on September 29, 2009, he
Which is September 29, 2009, okay.
he told you that that he's got to get past the medical examiner, right? Page 61,
What page? Oh, 61.
line 5.
Yes.
And that was right after on page 60 that he discussed with you and Rachel his theories.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Turn to tab 30. And a couple pages in, we're again referring to the September 23rd, 2008 email that you sent on September 24th, 2008. You turn to page 2.
And you said on tab 30?
Yes.
I don't think they're numbered, so is it just,
Are you tab 30, and then the first document is a subpoena,
yes.
and then the second document is your answers to the subpoena, and then the third is the September 23rd, 2008 email to Doug Whitney, correct?
Yes.
And then on the second page of that, at the bottom, you write to Doug Whitney, I tried to call the hospital several times to get my mother's medical records for that day. They told me that only my father would be able to get that. Correct?
That's correct.
And then you say, I had my friend, who is a physician, call and get a report. Correct?
Correct.
And then you say, he sent me the following email. And then he says, at the beginning of that, I was able to get the lab info from the hospital. Right?
Uh-huh.
And then if you go back in tab 30 still to the
Objection,
subpoena.
approach.
Yes, come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to take just a brief recess. I need to check something. Let's take about 10 minutes. Remember my admonition, don't discuss any subject of the trial with each other or with anyone else. It's your duty not to form or express any opinion about the case until it's submitted for deliberation. Avoid media coverage of the trial, if any. Do no research on your own. Court's in recess.
All rise.